Hello and welcome in, everybody, to the Fantasy Six Pack Network. This is Best Ball After Dark, and I am your host, Justin Bruni. Welcome in. This evening, we are going to be skipping the Best Ball Mania 5 draft, and we're going to be diving into my top 8 QB and wide receiver stacks for Best Ball in 2024. Wanted to keep it nice and tight with the top 8, the top 10, top 12. A lot of different options I felt I could have gone with, the further I digged. I will lead off with a couple of snubs off the list, just a couple of quick hits. We're seeing a little bit of more love for Rashee Rice climbing up the board, still a 5th-round click, even with the Hollywood Brown injury. I obviously like that with Patrick Mahomes, but you kind of have a tough decision there to make if you want to stack him with Mahomes or if you want to stack Mahomes with Kelsey. So it's a little bit more difficult, and I kept them off this list specifically because, there's completely two different directions you could go with Mahomes' ADP. You could lean into him with Kelsey, a receiver in a Rashee Rice, but you still have Xavier Worthy not that far behind an ADP, and you have Hollywood Brown, who we got a little bit of an update on, looking like a week 3, week 4 return date potentially for him. So even if he's not gone till week 5, he becomes more of a value. And again, this still is a convoluted situation that, keeps him out of like my top 8. It's just too uncertain of where, the targets could lean at any particular time in the season. I could see Rice leading the team in targets the first handful of weeks, but going forward, we could see that shift to Kelsey with more bountiful wide receiver targets. We could see it shift to a healthy Hollywood Brown. We could see it shift to a more inclined and experienced Xavier Worthy as he gets more acumen as the weeks go on in the NFL season. We've got Disbanded Brotherhood with the dot showing his love for the algorithm. Appreciate you, sir. Our last snub before we get into the top 7 here, is Anthony Richardson and Michael Pittman. I really like this one a lot. It's just that with Anthony Richardson, he's going to rush the ball a lot. Michael Pittman Jr. was 4th in the league last year in total receptions, and he's one of my favorite clicks this year in Best Ball Mania 5. I have no issue taking him as my first wide receiver. It's a pretty polarizing statement, at least of the feedback that I've gotten from that statement, right? Like, I get a lot of pushback on Michael Pittman for this year, but I still have a lot of trust in him. But I do believe that this offense does become more run heavy, more run focused with Anthony Richardson under center. God knows what would happen if Joe Flacco got into the game, if he just made one of those tight ends super fantasy relevant. Joe Flacco, now the backup quarterback to Anthony Richardson, was 3rd in fantasy points per game last season. Obviously not a huge sample size, but an amazing finish for him down the stretch. I would actually love if someone like that was paired with Michael Pittman Jr., but I still believe that the accelerated ceiling that Anthony Richardson can provide us does still raise the floor a bit, or at least keep it steady for Michael Pittman's value. So again, I really like that click. I like that pair this year, but because I believe the offense will be a little bit more run heavy, I am going to stay away, at least off of this list. I definitely, like I said, have a fair amount of those two stacked up in Best Ball Mania 5. We are going to jump into the top 8 now. Appreciate everybody for joining in. Go ahead and smash the like button, share the video, follow the Fantasy Six Pack Network. We've got all the best stuff for you in fantasy over here, whether it's rankings, best ball, dynasty, redraft. We've got all sorts of other sports. We've got fantasy baseball still alive and well, I believe. And we've got, maybe some fantasy hockey stuff right around the corner, fantasy basketball, all sorts of good stuff over here at the Fantasy Six Pack Network. Let's jump into the top 8 here. We're leading off with Christian Kirk and Trevor Lawrence. These are two very at value pieces on your best ball roster. Trevor Lawrence coming off the board in round 10. Christian Kirk going in the 4 to 5 turn. You can get him definitely in round 5 if you can catch a little fall, maybe 3 or 4 picks after ADP. Maybe someone starts to prioritize running back or tight end in that space. So you can definitely get these guys in rounds 5, round 10, given the right scenario. And I love the Jaguars this year. I love the weapons that they brought in to supplement the exit of Calvin Ridley. I like Brian Thomas and I like Gabe Davis, but they don't feel like volume-like receivers. Christian Kirk feels like that guy to me, the guy that can come into this offense this year, get 140 plus targets, 100 plus receptions, kind of revert back to more of what we saw from him and Lawrence in 2022. I think that Calvin Ridley just was too much of a target hog last year, and their similarities in style or skill set, just kind of rubbed against each other too much. Christian Kirk did average 11 fantasy points per game last year, and Lawrence did finish as QB 13. So you're getting QB 13 in round 10. I will have better value for that in this top 8. There are a lot of good value QBs in round 10. But if I've already tapped Kirk, maybe I've thrown in ETN. This is a great way to back up a stack with Trevor Lawrence in round 10 in an offense that will still pass the ball a lot. You do have some competition for targets. I can't argue that with Evan Ingram there, top 3 tight end last year. You do have Gabe Davis being signed, being brought in. You do have the rookie and Thomas Jr. being drafted. So yeah, there are some plots to go through here. There is going to be some up and downs, I think, for Christian Kirk. But overall, I do believe that he will be the best fantasy asset at the wide receiver position on this roster, even over Evan Ingram. I think Evan Ingram was able to take advantage of a big year last year, and I think we could see some reduction in his targets and his opportunities on the field. So I really like this one at top 8. It's not my most stacked pairing. That would actually be Will Levis and Calvin Ridley, but Will Levis a little bit too unproven to make this list. But I do have a bunch of Lawrence, Kirk, Levis, Ridley rosters and builds. That is definitely a common double stack that I'm doing. They're playing each other week 17. There's some good correlation there, and obviously good value in Ridley's ADP. Kirk, like I just mentioned, and both of those quarterbacks. Will Levis obviously going much, much later. All right, number 7 here, we've got Josh Allen and Khalil Shakir. Khalil Shakir is technically the wide receiver 1 on the depth chart. Not sure if that's going to be the case. I really like Keon Coleman, but Shakir is a great value. He's going in, round 9, 10. He is also going at a turn. He finished last year 39 for 611 with just a few touchdowns, but he did average 15.7 receiving yards per yards per reception, excuse me. Josh Allen, QB1, QB2, QB1, QB1. The last 4 seasons, those are his QB finishes. One of the most consistent quarterbacks right now in the NFL, despite any volatility in his stats. Some of his passing numbers and efficiencies have come down in the past 4 years, but he is steadily rock solid as a top 2 QB in fantasy football. So he's got to be in this top 8, right? He's got to be in this list. You're shopping for the best value. Is it Keon Coleman? Is it Khalil Shakir? For 2 players that I feel that will have similar roles, I'm going with Shakir, someone who was a big playmaker for them last year. There's a ton of vacated targets with the departure of Stephon Diggs. Yeah, they brought in Curtis Samuel. Yeah, they have Dalton Kincaid, who I imagine will have a big impact in this offense. But when we're talking QB receiver, this is a very desirable stack based on value. And Josh Allen, certainly much cheaper than he was last year. So you're getting a little bit of value with him, anywhere past, pick 40. It's pretty much an easy click to grab Josh Allen, and anywhere in round 4. If you're absolutely into it and you're dedicated to getting Josh Allen on your roster, I have no issue taking him at ADP, somewhere late in the 3rd round. No issue there. Like I just mentioned, QB1, QB2, QB1, QB1. The guy is just super, super consistent based on his rushing floor, the high octane offense, and just his overall physicality. He's a super freak athlete. He can do it all, run, pass, not too much to really question here for me from Allen. It's really just more about if you want to go with Shakir, Curtis Samuel, or Keon Coleman. I think Shakir will be the most equitable value based off of, again, that round 9, 10 click. Anywhere that you can get in that turn, maybe you can get him for a little bit of a fall. If, again, you have a draft that's trying to play catch up with running backs. We got Mike Robb in the chat sneaking this one in last minute. Appreciate you, Mike, hitting a word before we hit the bed, before we hit the hay. Very easy one here with this number 7 pick. Love Josh Allen. Khalil Shakir, like I said, explosive player, someone that can get open down the field, someone that can, run routes very well, and someone who's just also very familiar with Josh Allen. Kincaid, yeah, he has a rapport with him as well, but Shakir probably has the most touches and most snaps with him across the past 2 seasons. So a lot to like there with that pick 7. Jalen Hurts, A.J. Brown. It's super common, but this is an elite stack. I mean, this is a stack that I see done almost in every draft because you have A.J. Brown going in round 1. Very easy to stack with Jalen Hurts in round 4. I'm leaving it at 6 despite how elite these two have been the past 2 seasons. Jalen Hurts, QB2, QB3 the last 2 seasons. A.J. Brown was wide receiver 5 and wide receiver 7 the last 2 years. That's very consistent, very good. That's exactly what we're looking for. I imagine Saquon Barkley can come in, eat a few shares of that offense, and maybe gobble away a few touchdowns from those receivers in Brown and Devonta Smith. But I still have to have a ton of confidence in this stack based off of what we've seen and how good we've seen them be together. This team hasn't really added much on offense other than Saquon Barkley. The receivers remain very well intact between Brown, Devonta Smith, Dallas Goedert. Some people are telling me to get in on, Johnny Wilson. I think they may have even grabbed like Paris Campbell. No, thanks. Give me all of A.J. Brown. He's going at the end of the first round. ADP very adequate with his potential finish. Can easily be a top 5 wide receiver again. And again, you have Jalen Hurts, who just provides you a very safe floor based on his rushing ability. This is a guy that will easily get you double-digit rushing touchdowns paired with an elite field breaker like A.J. Brown. Don't know the exact number, but he's almost always over 15, 16 yards per reception almost every year that he plays. So this is an elite stack. You're getting elite ADP out of the QB and elite ADP out of the wide receiver, making it a very good value, getting them in rounds 1 and 4. But the drawback is, and the reason why it's number 6 is because there are much cheaper stacks that you could argue are just as valuable. You're going to get some quarterbacks at much better value with top-end receivers. So, yes, you have A.J. Brown here as a round 1 receiver, but I will have other round 1 receivers that I'm going to highlight to you with quarterbacks who have top 10 finishes, but they go much, much, much later. Next up, the trade hasn't happened yet. We still have Debo and Ayuk together as a pairing here. This is the only stack that we're going to feature 2 wide receivers. So first and foremost, my bet is that Ayuk will stay with the San Francisco 49ers. We just saw news tonight that they're really not that far away from an extension. And that's mostly what we viewed, all of this, stomping on the table, crying about money, demanding a trade. It's really just all posturing to get more money from the 49ers. They're the team that he can win with. They're the team that are willing to pay him. Maybe they're a little bit, far apart on negotiations, but it sounds like they might be getting closer. It sounds like they can pay him. So he can win there, put up elite production. It just doesn't make sense for him to go to somewhere like Cleveland or to go to Pittsburgh. If they're going to pay you a huge bag, sure, I get it, but that's going to be it, buddy. That's your sail into the wind money because you're not getting any of the Super Bowl perks. You're not getting any major bonuses likely, with the potential quarterback play, whether it would be Russell Wilson or Justin Fields, bound to be some inconsistency there. Deshaun Watson, Jameson Winston, let it speak for itself, right? I mean, you're not likely to find the same results that you've had in San Francisco elsewhere. Both these two finished as top 15 wide receivers last year, Debo at number 12 and Ayuk at number 14. Again, in a high-octane offense, an offense that's going to score a lot of points, an offense that's going to be in the scoring territory a ton. Pair that with Brock Purdy, the QB7 from last season, who averaged 19 fantasy points per game. Amazing stuff. Obviously, CMC, he's going to do his thing, but you're not paying a lot for these guys. Take your pick of one of these round 2 receivers. You're getting Purdy, I believe, in round, 7? No, 10, He's QB6 right now, or no. Yeah, he ranked QB6 last year, going in round 10. So right there, I mentioned Trevor Lawrence earlier, who was QB13 last year. You've got Brock Purdy, QB6 last year, going in the same exact draft capital. It's absolutely insane the amount of value that you can get at quarterback. And this is a reason why you would say, hey, you know what? Maybe I will pass up on that Philly stack. Maybe I will, divert from A.J. Brown. I've already done the Philly stack a few times. I can do something different. I can do something with a little bit more back-end value with quarterback. This is a very good example of it. It's very easy for me to click either of these names in the second round. I don't have a ton of them because, again, I just mentioned one finished wide receiver 12, another finished wide receiver 14. There could be more volatility to that situation this coming season where maybe you see one of them in the top 10, but then the other one in like the top 22 or the top 24 still could be a very good season for them. But at the end of the day, one could still be more efficient than the other. And, I might lean a little bit in Deebo's favor just because of the rushing upside, but it's very hard with that offense because you still have CMC that's going to be there. He's going to be toting the rock a ton. And that offense loves to pass the ball. You still have George Kittle there. Like I said, with these two receivers, they're going to get theirs. But there could be, again, that little bit of extra volatility built into their production this year. Brock Purdy is just a super safe pick. I'll take Brock Purdy naked. Again, attached to an offense, going to score a lot of points, going to be in the scoring territory a lot, has reliable elite weapons. There's a reason why they're negotiating right now for, to keep Brandon Ayuk, right? He is an elite talent. He's one of the best players at his position right now. Deebo Samuel has been that the past few seasons, and he's not in a situation to be going anywhere. So they're going to ride him out and use him a ton still, I believe. But Ayuk, if they pay him, they're not paying him for him to do nothing. So I still expect a lot from both of these guys. A very easy pairing for you. Click one of those receivers in the second round, especially if you haven't taken a lot of them because you're getting more of a price hike right now for Deebo. I think you might be getting a little bit like I'm talking like 2, 3, 4 picks for Ayuk and an ADP fall because of the potential trade talk. So get these guys while you can. Again, Purdy, super easy for me to grab him. I can take him naked. Super easy. Okay, that was a technical difficulty. Sorry about that. Not sure what happened there. Camera went black. Not sure where you missed me there. Easy clicks, taking Purdy, round 10, Ayuk, Debo, round 2, easy stack, easy pairing. Again, sorry about that. Screen does not go black very often. All right, we're back on the board here. We're looking at Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase. Now we're talking potential wide receiver ones. Jamar Chase was only a wide receiver 12 2 seasons ago, but we have seen him and Joe Burrow be absolutely electric. An offense that passes the ball a ton. It's never going to be a surprise when you see Joe Burrow throw the ball 4 or 5 plus times in a game. I want every bit of this offense that I can get this year. I believe that they are going to, again, pass the ball a lot. They lose Joe Mixon, a reliable anchor RB who can really tote the rock, put the ball on the ground, and really eat some clock. You're going to divide that work up with Zach Moss and Chase Brown, who, in my opinion, are still a few levels behind what Joe Mixon provided you is just as far as like safety, like reliable production guy that you can count on. They're going to look to divide and conquer with those two, which to me pushes me to the receivers. Jamar Chase always is an absolute candidate to finish top 5 at the position. T. Higgins, not so much. Like, he is definitely the Robin to Jamar Chase's Batman. Go look at the production. Higgins hasn't finished as a wide receiver 1. He's had some big moments. He's had some big performances, but there isn't enough consistency. Joe looks like he's 50 with that hair. I love that. Very good descendant brotherhood. Joe Burrow. Looks like 50-year-old Eminem. But yeah, this offense, like I said, going to pass the ball a lot. Jamar Chase, hyper efficient when given the opportunity. We just need to see these guys stay healthy. And that's really the only bet to stay away from this stack. You have Joe Burrow going in round 7, Jamar Chase obviously going in round 1. I really think that, the only way to pass this up is you're just never getting the 4th or 5th pick, that you're just easily clicking Jamar Chase at that ADP. So why wouldn't you have a bring back for him with Joe Burrow? It would be very difficult for me to stay completely away from Jamar Chase, but this stack together has potential for them both to be top 5 at their position. Like if everything goes the way that we want them to, they're hitting at their ADPs or better. They're both finishing top 5 at the position, and they both absolutely have the potential to do that. And it's really, to me, again, based on volume. I think that the offense will pass the ball a ton, and Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase are going to be huge benefactors to that. T. Higgins could be the same, but without long-term commitment, with really no strong confidence in the run game between Zach Moss or Chase Brown. I like Chase Brown. I like him over Zach Moss, but I don't think that the situation benefits either of them really to the point where you see the run game really take over. You might see some drives where they're running the ball a lot, but when they get down to the red zone, I'm expecting them to finish with passing touchdowns. I just don't see Chase Brown or Zach Moss being a huge red zone threat. Mike Gesicki doesn't scare me. He's more of a slot tight end receiver than he is an actual tight end. So I love Chase this year, especially him and Higgins in the red zone. But this pairing is just too good to stay away from. Is it different network, Mike Rob? Different network. But I appreciate that you have us on the easy click here. Number 3, we've got Tua Tagovailoa and Tyreek Hill. Again, very easy pairing here. Tua Tagovailoa also going in the late rounds, round 10. Tyreek Hill, he has finished, 2, 3, 6, 2 for wide receiver finishes the last 4 years. I don't know why we're not clicking him first overall over CeeDee Lamb. This guy has been Mr. Consistent. The only thing that you can argue against him is how deep the offense is. You have Devon Achane, you have Raheem Mostert, you added in Jalen Wright this year. You're still bringing back Jalen Waddle, got a contract extension. You added OBJ. You also drafted Malik Washington. Like the offense is deep. So Tyreek Hill has the consistency of the wide receiver 1 in the NFL. It's just, do you want to bet that this isn't the year? I'm perfectly fine taking Tyreek Hill number 1 overall in my best ball mania drafts. I've done it a few times. I don't have to because I get plenty of him at 3. But if I want to, balance him out with my shares of CeeDee Lamb or Christian McCaffrey, I'll easily do it because, again, the consistency is there. I've never been a huge Tua fan, but he finished very well last year. I mean, he was like 4th in accuracy. He was QB 9 overall. I mean, there's really not much to hate here. He's in a very good offense. You can draft Tua naked just because all of the other weapons in the offense go before him. I think other than Jonnu Smith or OBJ or Malik Washington, he's the last Dolphin of significance to be drafted, which is super interesting because he's one of the most important parts and the biggest part for stacking, for getting him into your build. So definitely something you want to look at, when you're getting Tyreek Hill. That's an easy click, but I wouldn't be scared to draft Tua and then get some back end stacks with him with a Jonnu, a Malik, or an OBJ. Both are very valuable assets this season. But the stack overall is going to be very good. Like I said, I mean, you've got Tyreek Hill, who's super consistent. You've got Tua, who's been accurate, defying the narrative, that everybody has against him, that he's inefficient and can't throw the ball deep and can't throw it accurately. He did exactly that last year. So this is a good combination to target. It's also just very easy, right? Like I said, Tyreek Hill, first 3 picks. You've got Tua. You can even take him in round 9 if you really want to, if you're afraid on missing him. But it's more than likely that, it's going to be between you or the Waddle owner that's really going to go after him. And you probably won't have to pull him ahead of ADP. If anything, you might get a slight dip. I've seen that every now and again. Yeah, I see you in there, Joe. I don't know what happened there, buddy. Number 2. Dak Prescott, CeeDee Lamb might be number 1, but is it too good to be true? I don't know if this tandem can repeat like they did last year. Massive production. Dak Prescott finishing with the most passing touchdowns, QB3, the most accurate passer of last season. That's crazy to think, considering his production from a few seasons ago. And that again kind of makes me question: will we see the same Dak and CeeDee Lamb in 2024? I believe confidently enough to put them at number 2. That's for sure. So I have confidence in them, but maybe just enough to hold them back a little bit, right? Just to maybe keep them in check. CeeDee Lamb arguing for more money, a contract extension. Dak's going to need the same thing, but he's playing the good cop to CeeDee Lamb's bad cop right now. Mum's the word on Dak, but also still needing some money to come his way. I'm just not that worried about that situation. I'm not worried about either of these guys not getting paid because they need to pay to get play. They need to play to get paid regardless, right? Like they're going to have to get on the field. I'm not concerned about holdouts or anything like that. You know that CD is elite. Dak Prescott showed last year like he can be that guy. He can be top of the league. I think everyone's kind of always seen him as like that top 10 potential QB, but there's always been bad Dak narrative out there. And you'll see Dak fall a ton in best ball because of that. He comes off the board in round 9. I see him as an easy click in round 11 all the time. He falls to the 110s, the 115s plenty of times. And again, this is a quarterback who finished as QB3 last year. Jaden Daniels, a rookie, is going ahead of him in ADP right now. He's never played a snap in the NFL, going ahead of the guy who threw for the most passing touchdowns last year, and that's because of the anti-Dak narrative. That's just people not liking Detroit, not liking that they're America's team. That's all that is. Because tell me why Dak Prescott's going that late, why he deserves to even go after Joe Burrow. I love Joe Burrow. He's on this list with Jamar Chase, but why would he be ahead of him in ADP? It doesn't make any sense because we know he'll throw the ball a ton. You also just look at the Dallas offense. You see that there aren't any additions really at receiver. You've seen me talk up a ton of Brandon Cooks. We should be doing the same thing about CeeDee Lamb because the only big move that they made was bringing back Ezekiel Elliott. What is that? Is that even a move? It's like an undo button. It's like Control Z, bringing back Control Zeke. I don't get it. And the running back stable is just not strong to begin with. Rico Dowdle, Deuce Vaughn, who I think is now banged up. I think. Oh gosh, it's going to drive me nuts. Maybe someone in the chat can tell me the third RB that everybody's been going nuts over. Big guy, boulder of a feller. It's going to drive me nuts. Someone you're not drafting, that's for sure. in best ball, that's the whole point. This offense is going to pass a lot. Jake Ferguson, Brandon Cooks. They're just not what CeeDee Lamb is, right? So when they're there, when they're healthy, they're one of the best stacks in the league. Even in your redraft league, even in your home league, this is a great stack to target. I would imagine it probably costs a little bit more for Dak in that regard. At least I would hope so because the ADP for him in the falls, they're amazing. I buy this stack a ton. Also, just to throw it in, you can get Ferguson right there with Dak. He's at the very similar ADP. Royce Freeman, thank you. Boulder of a feller. I'm sure he'll make the roster because just look at the running back room. It's just so bad. So yeah, Royce Freeman will probably crack the roster, but that again just goes towards my point that you want the receivers in this offense, and CeeDee Lamb will be out there week 1. That I can promise you. All right, last up here, it's more of a Rico Dowdle. Very good brotherhood. This is one of my favorites, Jared Goff and Amon-Ra St. Brown. I am predicting a smash year for Amon-Ra St. Brown. I have a ton of ARSB in round 1. I just constantly get clicks or picks 5 through 7, just over and over and over again. Give me Amon-Ra. Give me Amon-Ra. Give me Amon-Ra. That means I'm getting Jared Goff too because that's the name of the game, and that's what we're talking right now is stacking. Jared Goff, another round 10 plus. He goes in round 11. He's the latest of all of these quarterbacks that I've mentioned so far, and it's absolutely insane for a guy that was a top 10 QB last year. I've been saying that Jared Goff's a top 12 dynasty quarterback, that he's a top 10 redraft QB. Last year, the man proved it to me. Thank you. Appreciate you, Jared Goff. But it was mainly in part because of Amon-Ra St. Brown, who was an absolute dog last year, averaging 17 fantasy points per game. Absolutely loved his production. I'm going to say he can go on top of it. I'm going to say he's going to finish top 3, and he's going to become the next consistent wide receiver in this league behind Tyreek Hill. That's how much I trust him, especially in this offense that just doesn't give a fuck. They just throw. They don't care. They just go after you. They have great play calling. You got Ben Johnson coming back, who absolutely lit the roof off with Amon-Ra St. Brown last year, and I know he's going to feed him just as much, if not more. You may have an emergence from Jameson Williams. You may have Sam Laporta, bringing back the production that he did last year, but I'm still betting a very high and safe floor for Amon-Ra based on his inclusion in the offense last year. Over 150 plus targets, over 110 receptions. I think it was 114. He was 5 or 6 off of the next guy who was second. I think it was CD or Lamb. I can't remember which, but he's right up there. And I think that this year he's going to staple himself as that top receiver next year. The leap that CD Lamb made from last year to this year, we could very well see Amon-Ra move. I mean, obviously, he's only like a pick 5, pick 6 click. He could easily be 1 or 2 next year, right behind CMC or the next best thing. Maybe it's Bijan after this year. Maybe it's Breece Hall, whatever it is. I'm buying that he can be in like that Tyreek Hill territory 1, 2, or 3 based on what he's going to do this year. And Jared Goff, again, not a sexy name, a name that you get at discount because, oh, Jared Goff, it almost sounds like vomit in my mouth because I remember of how bad he was with the Rams. I don't know what it is about recency bias in fantasy football, but people keep it for far too long. Jared Goff, Dak Prescott, very good examples of that. Joe Burrow, like I said, hurt most of last season. Coming into this season, again, I love him. I love JB to JB, but still going ahead of these guys, still going ahead of Goff, super reliable last year, still going ahead of Dak, super reliable and always had the volume really the past couple of seasons. I mean, 2 years ago, he had Pollard and Zeke. You know, they both rushed for over 1,000 yards, and we saw what the offense was without them last year. I think we can get even less running opportunities this coming season. So definitely give me these two guys. Just a quick review here. Our snubs were Patrick Mahomes and Rashee Rice and Anthony Richardson and Michael Pittman Jr. So at 1, we had, again, Jared Goff, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Dak and CD at number 2, Tua and Tyreek Hill at number 3. I was about to say Tua Hill. Number 4, we've got Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase. At number 5, we've got Brock Purdy, Debo, and Ayuk. Pick your poison at receiver there if you didn't catch that during the technical difficulties. And we've got Jalen Hurts and A.J. Brown at number 6, super elite. Josh Allen, Khalil Shakir at 7, and Trevor Lawrence and Christian Kirk at 8. We'll catch up on some comments here before we head out. And Zeke has a rocking chair next to his locker. Yeah, it's going to also be parked on the goal line. You know, I expect Zeke to get touchdowns this year. It just may, be that guy that gets you 7 points, 9 points a game just based off of, some touchdowns. That's about it. Appreciate you guys jumping in. Mike, Rob, Disbanded Brotherhood, Joe, boss. Appreciate you guys jumping in the chat. We'll be back next week with some more strategy talk, some more stacking, maybe looking at some other positions, running back and tight end, and potentially even doing a draft as well. We are going to head on out. Take care. Be well. Be good. We'll see you next week. May the drafts be yours.